Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another off-season recap slash upcoming season preview. Today, we are covering the Los Angeles Clippers. As always, we are on YouTube doing this. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to your podcast, check us out on YouTube, Hustle and Hoops. You get to see our faces and you get to see a great visual component along with it. But without further ado, let's just get right into the Clippers. Thank you, Dove. Thank you.
We got there. We got there.
The mishap.
Right. So the Clippers, obviously, when this team was assembled, when this core was assembled, they had championship aspirations. And injuries have sort of derailed that, or should I say the Denver Nuggets derailed that originally, but we won't get into that.
The bubble.
But recently, injuries have derailed that, beginning with Kawhi Leonard getting injured in 2 seasons ago's playoff, Paul George missing most of this season, Reggie Jackson missing time. And it's not the same team that we last saw Kawhi Leonard on. So, Dove, Kawhi Leonard, he's coming back. It seems like every week we are talking about players coming back from major injuries. And Kawhi, we know at his peak is an MVP candidate. Do you think, like, he's had a lot of time to recover? Will he be back to normal Kawhi? And we know Kawhi is also, loaded question here. Kawhi has also dealt with his fair share of load management in the past. So how big of a factor will that play into this year? And what's the measure of success? Like, are expectations high because we know what he's capable of, or your expectations a little lower because he's got, this baggage?
Well, I mean, I think we've seen pretty clearly in the media that the Clippers are a team that aren't really being talked about too much. And I think we know, and like you said, we know that Kawhi and Paul George and et cetera, we know what they can do. I don't think necessarily sitting here and talking about what they can do is productive. I think saying that, we haven't seen what this team altogether looks like yet. We haven't seen what Norman Powell and Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi, and Zubac looks like on the floor. But Kawhi has played through a lot of different teams, lineups, rosters, situations. I don't doubt that Kawhi is doing perfectly fine. My real question is, and kind of to answer a question with a question, do you see this team winning more than 55 games with everybody healthy and playing, almost every single game, every single night? Do you see this team at full strength doing that?
I mean, if the team is at full strength, I do, but
absolutely,
it's a big if, because like I said, Kawhi's dealt with his fair share of load management, and now he's coming off an injury. He's going to have even more load management. The Clippers were a play-in team last year, like they won enough games hobbling, like with no true star on the court for most of the season.
MVP Reggie.
Yeah, I mean, Mindy, do you think PG-13, like we saw him at an MVP level when he was with OKC? You think, like, because he's the more steady option this year, because he's probably going to play more games, you think he might take over that number one role and Kawhi might take a step back a little bit?
I mean, I could see him averaging more points, but I still think when Kawhi plays down the stretch, he'll be the number one option. But Paul George will be that guy to get them there throughout the game, be the steady scorer, be the guy with the ball in his hands, and then end of the game, Kawhi will take over type thing. And if it works like that, I think that's the best. It's the best thing they can do for their system, because Kawhi's going to play limited minutes no matter what, but the team around him is so good that they can basically contend with anyone until the end of the game, and then Kawhi comes in. If he
the mid-range game,
yeah, if he
comes out
backloads his minutes to the end of the game,
and that's what I wasn't getting to so well, I guess, before, is that without Kawhi, do you see this team being able to win 55 games and close out those 55?
Well, that's why I said yes,
Kawhi?
because they won 42 and they didn't have Kawhi or PG for most of the season. I think the supporting cast proved they can step up. And on the basis of supporting cast, Duville, do you agree with this 3-4 of Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, or would you, in transparency to our viewers, we split up who designs each slideshow. So for a 3 and 4, we have Reggie Jackson and Norman Powell respectively. Was that what you would have done, Duville?
I mean, that's a tough question. They're both veterans and they're both scorers. So I would probably personally have Norm at the 3 and Reggie at the 4. But with how Reggie played last season, I think he has a definite argument to be the third option on this team. And we saw they just signed John Wall. So that's interesting because as we'll see in a couple of our starting rosters, a couple of us have John Wall in it. So I don't know. I think Reggie, he's going to have a lot of his shots taken away because Paul George and Kawhi will be there. And a John Wall, there's a lot of talent here. So I think it's going to be on Reggie to really just stand back and facilitate.
Yeah.
And really just make sure that offense is running well and getting the ball to the guys who are going to score.
Yeah, Reggie's got to keep his spot in the lineup this year. Last year, he didn't really have much competition, but he obviously played well enough to keep his spot. This year, if he slips up a little bit, you got a guy like John Wall creeping behind him that can take his minutes. But let's move on because we'll talk a little bit more about all these guys in a little bit. Shouts out Josh Smith. The Clippers made he was on that picture. He was front and center.
Out of everyone,
the one, yeah, that's
the Clippers made one draft pick. Did they trade up for this draft pick? I think they might have. Irregardless,
I think so.
It was Moussa Diabate. We saw Moussa Diabate play a lot as Big Ten basketball fans. He was not ready to come out, in my opinion. He's not going to have much of a role. He got hurt, and he actually was playing decent in the summer league, but summer league's not the pros. This team's got a lot of depth. Let's move on.
Shouts out Shay.
So in terms of their off season, not with the draft, they were busy. They re-signed their own guys and Zubac, Nick Batum, and Amir Coffey, all getting fair contract extensions. And then they also brought in John Wall, and obviously they're getting Kawhi Leonard back. So they are going to be looking a lot different or a lot more improved because the guys they re-signed are obviously they think they're going to be at the same level, if not better, next year. And then they lost Jay Scrubb. End of an era there. But
kind of a scrub.
Dove, you got something to say about these acquisitions?
We left out someone super important. We left out the biggest loss in Clippers history.
Isaiah Hartenstein.
He's probably like the second best backup center in the league last year. We forgot to put him on here. But
it wasn't on the transactions list.
You look at this team and what they've done over the past year or so to kind of reaffirm in our minds and in the players' minds and the front office minds and the investors' minds, hey, we're still contending, but our guys are injured. They need a little time. My concern, my only thing, John Wall could be interesting. Yeah, Batum is and has been a
spit it out
guy.
Spit it out.
Veteran. I said earlier that I could see them being a 55 regular season win team, right? I don't see them being more than I could not tell you that I truly believe that this is more than like a second round team.
I mean, that's what Kawhi and PG have done.
Completely fair.
That's fair. No one's going to argue with you on that.
I don't think anybody will argue that.
I don't think anything they've done has pushed them over the edge. And I don't think the holes that they lost that, I know it's just Isaiah Hartenstein, but like, okay, now you don't have a backup center with
Moussa Diabate.
No.
That would be the opposite of me being the front office saying, yeah, we're contending. That would be the opposite.
I mean, I think this is just dependent on how Kawhi comes out, because then it's just like
They're also going to
he
run a lot
hasn't
of
played
small
all
ball.
year. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
yeah, no.
Rocco
I'm not
at
critiquing.
five.
I'm not critiquing the Isaiah Hartenstein loss
Dove.
to the moon.
They're
I'm
trying
more
to be like the
saying.
Lakers.
I'm
That's
more
what
saying.
Before we move into the rotations, where we'll be able to talk about the players as individuals for a little bit more, Kawhi Leonard carried the Toronto Raptors to a
Facts.
championship victory. If he is
Right, but that was the
remotely
Toronto.
healthy,
He had a good supporting cast.
I don't understand.
It's a difference less in talent
This
and
is a
more
good supporting
in more in
cast.
individuals.
Yeah, this is worthy.
I think there's a chance, but I think
team
think
can
there's
win a
still
championship.
individuals that make it hard for
Yeah.
me to believe that this team is a championship roster. Much less
Fully healthy, everyone playing
yeah.
to the best of their ability.
With the
This isn't a
Toronto
championship
Kawhi.
team.
It's not all about people playing to the best of their ability. Players can play amazing and they can still lose the game.
You don't think this team is a team?
Reggie Jackson, I still
Kawhi
don't
at his
think it's a
best
team.
does
But
not
again,
lose games.
they've been injured.
Deep
So
boy.
if they play during the regular season, then maybe my opinion on that will change. But
It will.
I haven't seen this team be a team yet.
So you're very pessimistic. That's okay. I think I give Kawhi Leonard and Paul George the benefit of the doubt, and
Fair.
that like they can carry a very good supporting cast to a possible championship.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
The team.
that's a fair point, but that's
Tyler?
I mean that's what we'll kind of
All right,
hash
Doug,
it out
so-
right here.
Yeah. So you got your bench, or I mean, you got your lineup. Why don't you just take us through it real quick?
Yeah, so I've got Reggie starting at the point guard. We talked about this a little bit. We kind of led up to it. It's just a simple thing of like a homer pick. I think the Clippers and the Clippers fans love Reggie Jackson, just like Pistons fans loved Reggie Jackson to a degree. Like to the same degree where, he is still our guy. We're still gonna rep for him. Yes, I agree. We had times where we hated him, but it's Reggie. You gotta love him. He's starting at the point guard coming into that, beginning of the season.
Okay.
That's
Paul
facts.
George at the shooting guard. That's obvious. Kawhi at the small forward. That's obvious. Nick Batum, I think, is the starting power forward for that team. I think he's just super dependable and has been for the last like 2.5 years since his Charlotte Hornets stint. And then Zubac at center. That man is a tank. Just a tank. Straight tank. Off the bench, I got Norman Powell as my sixth man. I got Rocco for defense. Literally nothing else. John Wall for a little bit of energy, if that's what he can provide at this point in his career. Let's hope so. And then Marcus Morris and Luke Kennard for shooting.
All right. I mean, yeah, that's a perfectly fair lineup. Most notably, no Trey Mann, who's been very good at. There's just no room for him
Unless Rocco plays like absolute shit.
Yeah. But I mean,
Which is
that's not to say Kawhi Leonard will miss games and Trey Mann will have to play. But I have a similar starting lineup actually, but not that similar. I've got John Wall starting at point guard. I think they're gonna try it. I don't know if it'll work, but they're gonna try it. PG at shooting guard, Kawhi at small forward, obviously. I have Rocco at power forward just because I think he's just a more versatile Nick Batum. Personally, like they're both getting similar money. Like they don't value either of them more. I think they're pretty interchangeable. Then I got Reggie Jackson and Luke Kennard off the bench because they played well enough last year. Luke Kennard was like number 1 in 3-point field goal percentage. That fuck him, but you got to play him. Marcus Morris and Nick Batum because they're NBA players, and Norman Powell. I don't really have a set order. I think Reggie Jackson would be the sixth man, but don't come at me and say, oh, Norman Powell's 10th. What the fuck? Nah, they're all pretty interchangeable. They're all getting pretty even spread minutes.
Dove is ready. In the comments.
Dove is ready to unload on me.
It's whoever's playing the best. Even my starting lineup, it's whatever works best for the team. They have all these guys, and they're just gonna plug and pick whoever they can, whoever's playing well. whoever works best for the matchup. Like,
I think it's mine or Mindy's.
I think you two have the exact same lineups besides Reggie Jackson and John Wall swapped. Am I wrong on that there?
No, it's who are you talking to?
Duval and Mindy.
You talking to me?
No,
No,
you
I'm
and me
not-
should have the
Dude, me
exact
and
same.
Minden
almost.
have the
Duval and Mindy have the exact same lineups besides Reggie
you're
Jackson
right,
and John Wall
besides Reggie
swapped.
Jackson and John Wall.
Yeah.
From 1 to 10, except switching the position of Kawhi and PG. But like no, they don't even have that. They have the same lineups. So
Yeah.
either of y'all want to
Yeah.
take your lineups?
I'm taking mine over all of your guys's. And
I'm
I
taking
will
mine over
say
yours.
I'm having Nick Batum as my 10th because he's not a good NBA player anymore. But if we
wow,
can get
that is so
flashes
disrespectful.
of
Yeah, I don't know about that.
flashes of
So, I don't know
France,
where the
Nick
fuck-
Batum,
We're gonna
then
pause
he's that
real-
guy.
'cause I don't know where the fuck all this
French
Nick Batum
national team, Nick
disrespect is
Batum.
coming from.
Bro,
Dude,
he's a
this-
spot up shooter.
You're trashing Nick Batum, who has been a really,
He doesn't play that
really,
much.
really
Come on.
solid perimeter defender for
Nah,
the
You
he'll
are
play.
overhyping him.
And
He's
but
gonna,
play.
play. Yeah, you are overselling this.
Yeah,
Like, if
dude
we
was
get-
not
underselling him, but
overselling
you were
this.
overselling him.
He's
been
not
a
over-
start-
he's
he's
not
been a
overselling
starting
it.
po-
He's
He's
not.
been their starting power forward. I don't
No.
know where this like
Where are you getting that
fuck
from? That's
Nick
Marcus
Batum. He's not an
Morris.
NBA player. Fuck Nick. Yes, he had
I
a
said he's-
down.
I didn't
He
say that.
had
I
a
said he's not
downward
good.
trajectory
No,
at the
Nick
end of his career. At the end of his career, like 4 or 5 years ago, he had a downward trajectory when he went to the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, and then I don't remember what happened in
All right.
between then, but
He's
he
just
had a
a shooter
huge
now.
resurgence. I don't
All
know
right.
where the fuck you're
Um,
getting that from.
Let's cover one last topic before
Thanks,
we
Minden.
before we
Tenth man.
finish up. John
got
Wall.
you.
We did not really talk about John Wall too much. Obviously, 2 of us have him in the starting lineup. 2 of us don't. The only situation of recent memory that I can really compare this to was Kemba Walker signing with the Knicks last year. The experiment obviously did not work. Former All-Star point guard coming to a contending team ish, and they started Kemba at point guard. It did not work. They cut him. Do any of you have a strong opinion on whether that will be the similar case for John Wall, or do you think he will have a better chance of succeeding in this position than Kemba did with the Knicks?
I think he has a better chance of succeeding. And I don't think they'll cut him, but they might not play him if he's not playing well. Maybe like, let's say Amir Coffey is playing really well in wherever he plays, practice, G League, if that ends up being a thing. And John Wall's not playing well. I could see them just sitting John Wall and bringing up Amir because it's kind of a question mark, but
All
I
right,
have
let me-
John Wall playing.
Let me pose you and then everyone else this question. Over under 40 games played by John Wall this year.
Under.
Over.
I'm going to take the over as well. I
Yeah.
think John Wall.
Can I take the equal?
Yeah, you can take
Can I say
40 on the
so?
dot.
The
Okay,
push.
40. I take 40
The
on the dot.
push.
I take 40 on the dot.
We'll remember
Oh,
it.
wait, I take that back. 42.
So, Doug, you're saying under half.
41.
Yeah, 40 and a
Oh,
half.
wow.
So
40 and a half.
over.
I say he does exactly. I guess yeah, over. Yeah.
All right,
Over.
so
Doug's
so
saying
Stuck
half.
with the original 40.
yeah, I think John Wall is
Okay,
going to be
then
the
I
X
guess-
factor because
I
if
don't know,
John
what's
Wall can
more?
be a member of the big 3, this team is looking
Awesome.
good.
Yeah.
I think their floor is obviously. I think their floor is playoff team, like above play and 6 seed, in terms of regular season success, and I think they can be as
Unless-
high as a 3 seed. I don't think they win their division because the Warriors are in it, and the Suns. Like it's a very tough division. We talked about that, 3 years ago before we talked about it on here. But I think they can win the finals if the stars align. And I also see them getting out of the first round no matter what, as long as they're healthy. Jack.
I mean,
take
yeah,
on
if
that.
they're healthy, I agree. But they're not going to be fully healthy the whole season.
So give us to it straight.
I think their floor is playoffs. They lose in the first round to like a Memphis or like a peaking
Denver.
Denver.
peaking Timberwolves or a Denver. Yeah, all 3 of those are good, but ceiling is championship. This is deep. This team is deep.
Yeah.
Like if you look at my lineup on the right, everyone, like, I mean, it's all of our lineups. We have the same 10 guys, but every single one is good. And if John Wall is playing well, that's 10 guys that are going to be they're going to win the championship if every single player is playing well.
All right. Dove, prediction on your end?
The floor, in my opinion, would probably be around where they were last year, probably like 42 to 45 wins. But realistically, I don't disagree necessarily with you guys saying that they could win a championship, but I still think their ceiling would be like the finals. I don't think they would win
That's fair.
the finals if they went up against like a Milwaukee,
Yeah, no one's coming at you
for
for that.
example.
Yeah, no one's coming at you for that. All right. And JD, take us home.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. I think their floor is play in and a first round exit to Dallas. And I think their ceiling is finals appearance, just like Doug, with a loss.
Playing is
Elimination
where
to
they were
Dallas.
there.
I would love it.
Oh,
Playing
I'd love
was where
to
they
see
were at
Luca just
last
cook
year.
him
That's why I
again.
said that, dude. So I guess we're on the same page there.
Yeah, I
All
think they would be playing again at worst.
Yeah.
All
So,
healthy.
Agreed.
all right. Great. Yet another successful episode. As always, follow us on Twitter at Hustle and Hoops, Instagram, TikTok at Hustle and Hoops. Subscribe to us, Hustle and Hoops on YouTube. And we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.